everybody, and welcome to another episode of Lost with Friends. And for the first time ever, I actually have a guest here in the studio with me. It's my dining room. And we have something of an audience with us. Guest, returning guest, reintroduce yourself.
I am Melissa.
You did the episode Raised by Another, right?
Yeah.
And it just so happened that I said, hey, why don't we do another episode? And it turns out that's also about children. And
Yes.
I didn't mean for that to become a recurring thing for you to be on this show. But
It's my theme.
yeah. So yes, like I said, we have some other people here with us. So if you happen to hear a little bit of background noise, I apologize in advance, but I am behind in recording these episodes. So you're going to have to deal with it just as much as we are. So we will be discussing the episode's special, centers on Michael and Walt briefly, and I guess we'll just get right into my notes.
Sounds good.
I have Michael yelling for Walt in the jungle, which of course he pretty much does for the rest of the series. I know you've only seen up until the first season, but if you remember, that's kind of how the season 1 ends.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so he's just there, just yelling Walt, as he is prone to do. Charlie approaches to ask about Claire's bags, and he's, have you seen Claire's bags? And, Michael's there, have you seen Walt? And they're just, and neither is really paying attention to each other. And then finally they're like, yeah, no, I haven't seen it. No, I haven't seen your thing either. And,
Yes.
but they're both stressed out about their own things.
Definitely.
I have that Hurley comments that Michael seems to hate being a dad. And I don't know, I didn't really get the feeling that he hates it, but
He's new to it.
yeah.
So it's all like mystery.
Yeah.
That's what I get from it. It's just frustrating because it seems like Walt won't listen to him.
Right.
So he's having a hard enough time dealing with the fact that he has a kid, and now the kid won't listen back. So
Right. I have, Michael just keeps shouting Walt, and I have that's a shame that's almost all that character is remembered for. And you ask any fan of the, big fan of the show, and they're like, Michael or whatever, and they'll just immediately go, Walt! Because that's just pretty much all that he's remembered for, that character. And it's a little sad.
yeah.
I have that Michael is happy in his flashback picking out a crib. And I don't know if you remember the scene in particular, but he has that weird hat on.
I do.
And I didn't quite understand what was up with that hat, because that was like hipster before hipster was a thing.
Yeah.
That's what it seemed like to me. Okay, I have that Walt is named after Michael's dad, and we finally get the explanation of why they have two different last names, because I know when I was watching it, granted I was binging it, but I was kind of wondering, why it was Lloyd and Dawson. I don't think they really commented on it on screen, but I know when I was looking up stuff briefly, because I didn't want to, have too much spoiler information at the time, but I know that I had seen that they had two different last names.
Which he has the mom's last name, right?
Yeah, because he, she's like, that. I'm going to give him my last name if you're going to name him Walter.
Walter. Yeah, I remember now. Okay.
Locke is in the jungle teaching Walt to throw, just as Walt asked him to do at the end of a few episodes ago. The previous episode, actually, he said, will you teach me how to do that? And when he's throwing knives in the jungle.
Yeah.
Locke tells Walt to visualize the knife hitting the tree. And I'm wondering, because in this episode we find out, the fact that Walt is special. We know that there's something about Locke that's special. And I'm wondering if that's just when it finally worked, if that was just because he was calm. Because sometimes, you tell people that, it kind of puts them out of their own head and it's okay, just focus on this one thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes that works, but I'm wondering if it was them sharing their special island powers.
Oh.
Or if it was just, being calm.
I don't know, because even when Walt was, am I going too far? Walt was, when he was in Australia or wherever, the bird died because he got mad. Like, I think it was because he got mad, so the bird smacked into the window.
Right.
Like, was he special before he got to the island, or did it enhance it?
Well, that's the thing, because if you remember, the stepfather at that, like when he, a little bit after that, when the bird hits the window, the stepfather even says, he's like, there's something not
right.
yeah,
about
yeah,
him.
pretty much. He's like, there's something not right about that boy,
Yeah. So that's what I was wondering. I'm like, well, did he kill the bird, or did the bird was it a coincidence? And then, Locke was telling him, see it in your mind's eye, and then all of a sudden, it's done. So he must be a pretty special kid, because how else would that happen?
Right. I have, and then Michael shows up, and he's angry, and he goes off on Locke, because he's been telling him this whole time, like, he's been telling Walt, like, I don't like you spending time with Mr. Locke, and
Right.
whatever. And, of course, because of the Walkabout episode, we know that Michael and Locke don't get along, because when Locke took them out to hunt the boar, and Michael was, like, just yelling when they were all trying to be quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they haven't really gotten along. And then Boone attacks Michael, and I have rightfully so, because as Locke points out, Michael was waving that knife around.
Yeah, he was.
And he was threatening Locke. But as I commented on this in the podcast previous to this, I personally think Locke was wrong in the way that he went about certain things. Like he says at one point in this episode, I think while Walt is here, he should be allowed to, do this and whatever. And I don't think that's right, because, like, he's not his parent. Even though Michael hasn't been around, Michael is his parent.
Right.
And I just have this, every time I start the show from the beginning again, I get this weird sense, because, like, Locke, in all these different situations, like, he's gone through so much, and, anyone who's seen the complete series knows his journey, how and where and why he got to that specific place at that specific time, the island, and it healed him, and you know what I mean, all these things. But he had to go through a lot before he got there. And then he got there, and he was, in a sense, like, enlightened. You know what I mean? Like, at several points, even in the first season, he comments, like, at one point, a few episodes ago, he gave his compass to Saeed, because he's like, I don't need it anymore. Because the concept is he knows, he is where he was going. So he doesn't need a compass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that too often that character is trying to get everybody to where he is, and he's not letting, because he knows, like, this island is a special place, and he wants everyone to realize that it's a special place. But it would be like starting a book, and I'm on page 67, you're on page 1, and I'm like, well, understand what I understand about the book. Like, we're not speaking the same language.
You're not
in
on
that
the same
way.
page.
Right,
obviously.
exactly. So, like, that's the problem that I have, because and I understand where he's coming from, because he wants everyone to be, I keep using the term, enlightened, like he is, but you can't just have everyone jump to page 67 or whatever.
Right.
You know what I
They have
mean?
to work at it. They have to find their own way, too.
Right. And then he tries to tell Michael specifically how to parent his son, and I'm not a fan of that.
No.
I have a flashback, the irony that Michael isn't happy for Walt's mom moving up in the legal world, when in the previous flashback he said that that's all he wanted for her when they were picking out the crib. And he's just like, one day you're going to be a big lawyer, and we're going to live a life of luxury pretty much. And then all of a sudden she's like, I'm a big lawyer. And he's like, no, but you're not taking my son.
Because I think he thought they were going to do it together. Like, do you know what I mean? She was going to move up, but he was going to be right by her side. Right. He didn't expect the whole split and stuff.
Yeah. I put that why couldn't she bring, I understand because, she ended up dating that guy.
That's what I was wondering too.
Why couldn't she bring him along?
Mm-hmm.
I have, isn't it odd that she couldn't bring her boyfriend or practically her husband? I said, and I watch a lot of TV and, read a lot of things, and not even in the wacky world of TV have I ever heard of an offer where someone is, a company is willing to relocate you and they won't take your spouse.
Right.
That's just odd to me.
It is. I thought the same thing.
Yeah. I have, back on the island, Son approaches Michael and they talk. He talks about the struggle of parenthood, especially since he wasn't around. and then he declares that Walt can't grow up here. This is the moment his journey to building the raft begins. And I know you at least know part of that story, because that's the season 1 finale.
Yeah.
Is the raft, the launching of the raft.
The raft, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poor Michael. I'm not a Michael fan, but I felt bad when that happened.
Yeah.
The raft thing.
Yeah.
And them's the breaks. The kid didn't want to leave.
Saeed says he may have found Danielle's notes pointing to something on the island, but he's not sure, and Jack is hesitant. And Michael comes by, commenting how they're once again setting up for something crazy in the jungle. Which, of course, that tends to happen a lot on this show. Once again, we're going into the jungle, I have that Michael, and this is something that I found kind of ironic. Michael comments negatively about building water filtration systems, playing golf, and pretty much making a home, which are all things that he had a major part in so far in the series. When they move into the caves, he draws up a thing, and he goes, oh, we could do this, and we could separate the drinking water from the bathing water. And then he's like one of the first people who he's like, I want to play golf. And when Walt said, I want to move into the caves, he's like, yeah, all right, we'll do that.
Yeah.
And
then I think reality set him where he's like, maybe he was scared because Locke or Walt was getting close. You know what I noticed, though, too, when I was watching it, is that when Walt kept going back to Locke, Walt kept trying to tell him it wasn't Locke's fault, and Michael's like, I don't want to hear from you. Like, he wouldn't even give him a minute to say his side and say, it's not Locke's fault, it's my fault. I came to Locke,
Right.
But he didn't even, I think that's where I personally think that he was going off, because you have to let your kid tell you something. Like, I don't even want to hear from you. Go right back.
But I mean, now I don't know. I'm not a parent, but I have to assume there are certain times where you're just so angry that you don't want to listen to your kid's attempt at an excuse, right?
To a point, I guess.
Especially if you think that maybe they're covering, because he would have to think that Walt was covering for Locke. But if he's just like, oh, it's my fault, it's not his fault, because Michael would think, oh, well, Walt doesn't want me to think bad of Locke because he wants me to like Locke.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? I would have to think that as well.
But Locke tried to tell him that he wasn't bothering him, that he was trying to agree with his wishes, and Walt's the one that kept coming back.
Right.
So, I mean, I understand Michael's point where he doesn't want to hear it, but then, I mean, there's a point where you do calm down and you can say, oh, what happened? Does Locke call you? Like, ask something? But
yeah,
it's just like, he's just like, I don't want to hear from you, go.
Well, it's actually, I have that later on as one of my notes, is the fact that Locke, when all of that happens, he takes the high ground and he doesn't say, I told him he can't, like, because at the one point he's like, your father doesn't want us hanging out,
right?
And he tries to tell him, like, go away, and that's one of the times when he's just like, why are you talking to my kid or whatever, and then I think like he offers him a pen or something, and he could have immediately just been like, well, listen, your little brat came to me, but he took the high ground instead, and he was just like, because as much as I think Michael thinks that Walt was protecting Locke was actually protecting Walt in that, you know what I mean, in that exchange.
And I wonder why, because if Michael's treating Locke like crap, why does he keep trying to make, not peace, but just keep the peace with Michael? Do you know what I mean?
If I had to guess, it's either because he wants to be the bigger man, because you tend to do that.
Right.
It could be because he knows that if he alienates Michael completely, then he may never get the chance to hang out with Walt, which he seems to like to do, because I think he senses something special in him as well. Just like Locke is special, Locke senses a specialness in Walt. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was just, because I'm thinking, why is he so mean, but yet Locke will be the first one to stand up and say, well, I brought a pen. Like, you know what I mean? Constantly just like diffusing the thing. Although Locke is like that with
Yeah, whenever he's on
From
the
what I
island,
see,
he's much more calm.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the whole. He is where he wants to be now.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
I have, going back, Michael tells Jack, Saeed, and Shannon that no one is coming, and that's not exactly new information to these three, seeing as they're in the know, and they all kind of give each other a look, you know what I mean? Because they know at that point that, Saeed, Jack, and Shannon, they all know about the French transmission where, they're all dead, and whatever, and Michael doesn't really know about that. So when he says no one's coming, they all kind of look at each other like, yeah, we know that already, but like they didn't want to tell anybody else because they didn't want to cause a widespread panic,
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they try to talk him out of building a raft because they're like, oh, that's a silly idea, but he won't take their negativity. Walt is then reading a Green Arrow and Flash comic in Spanish. We find out in I believe it's the season 1 finale, that this comic belonged to Hurley. When he shows up he's running to the plane late, and he's reading that comic when he's sitting on the plane. I didn't notice that. And I have that it also foreshadows the polar bear later in the episode, because there is a polar bear in the comic. And it has a dome structure isolating something. And I put the fact that all these years later, and I'm still not familiar with that comic, because as much as I'm a fan of the show and I love to look into the books that they talk about and some of the music and whatever, and I've even looked certain things up about that comic, but I've never actually sat down and read the whole thing because I'm not that interested. I like comics and stuff, but I just maybe one day, but. So I'm still not 100% sure what that dome thing is, but I have that it also is kind of foreshadowing of the island itself. You have no idea what I'm talking about.
I've seen the comic. I remember it. I remember Michael throwing it in. I remember Walt talking about it and trying to say the words in the Spanish. But I've seen the polar bear, but I don't remember the dome-shaped thing.
Yeah, there's they're looking, and there's something going on in the panels of the comic, and there's water, looks like water or part of a planet or something, and there's a dome kind of thing. Michael takes an interest to his son liking the art, but when he realizes he doesn't actually care, he gives it up quickly, and that's when he throws it into the fire. I believe or is that maybe a little later? I don't remember. I think it's right then when he's just
Oh, I think it's when he wanted him to come with him.
Yeah.
When Michael wanted Walt to come with him. And he said he liked the pictures.
Yeah. And it's because Michael is an artist.
Yeah.
We heard that a little bit, and then we see it in this one because he's drawing the penguin and all of that.
For Walt, yeah.
And then he says I'm interested in the pictures, and then at that moment you see it in his face where he's like, maybe we have something that we can bond over.
Yeah.
He likes art, I'm an artist, and then when he realizes he doesn't really like art, and he's just kind of saying that to stall, and then he just throws the thing in the fire, the comic in the fire.
Yeah, poor Walt.
In the flashback, Michael's on the phone, and he hears another man, Brian, when he's on the phone with, I cannot remember her name, Walt's mother. I have one might argue that this is the reason she didn't want to take Michael to Amsterdam, as we talked about earlier, why couldn't she? But to me, that logic doesn't quite make sense. Still, because there's still, unless she was hiding it, which we do find out later in this episode, she is something of a manipulator.
She is. She really is.
So we do find that out. So maybe there was an offer where they're like, oh yes, we'll take, your let's just say husband, we'll take your husband and your son and we'll move you all there. And she was like, yeah, we could take my son. Maybe. I'm not saying that's what happened, but maybe that's what happened.
I think so. I think she was with that Brian guy because she didn't even tell Michael she was with them. She was on the phone trying to get Michael off the phone, and she's like, wait, I'm on the phone with Michael. She was whispering to the guy. I mean, honestly, she is. I think she was a very... I don't hate Michael, but he's not my favorite so far, but she really took him for a ride. So
yeah,
I feel for him in that way where things got misconstrued and Michael didn't have Walt for 9 years.
Yeah.
But
And then Michael gets hit by a car. Now, you haven't seen this episode yet, so this one really goes out to the listeners, that I remember hearing a theory that it's the same car that hits Locke in a flashback later where he's in a parking lot of a toy store type thing. And I remember reading that people thought that this, because it was the same car, that it was the island, for whatever reason, that people thought that there was like a mysterious person in this car that hit them both, and that they were sharing similar experiences, and that it was somehow the island drawing them in, kind of like with the pen running out on Claire. In the episode that you were actually on previously, and that was one more thing where the island was like, not gonna make that happen, pen won't work, still not gonna make it happen, second pen won't work, because it was drawing her in. And I remember reading that the two of them getting hit by the same car, but if I remember correctly, it wasn't exactly a connection that the writers confirmed. They never said, like, yes, this is correct. It was, not that it was the same person, but, there is, some symmetry there. But I don't think they also really denied it either. So I guess they left that open to interpretation.
I would think it would be a very big coincidence. I mean, it happened. He got hit by the car. How long before he actually got on that plane to go to Australia to pick up Walt? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So there's a big.
But one thing leads to another. Him being in the hospital led to the mother visiting him.
Oh, okay.
Which, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Led to Brian getting to adopt Walt, which then led to Brian being like, I never really wanted to adopt him, which goes into the manipulator thing on the mother's part, because she, he says at the one point, like, I said I never wanted kids, but she was kind of like, no, he comes, he's part of the deal, which, if I'm not mistaken, unless Australian law is different, like, you don't have to adopt someone else's kid when you get married. You would just be their step-parent. I don't think you, because, you know what I mean? Especially, Michael wasn't involved in Walt's life, but if their biological parent is still involved, you don't you know what I mean? Because that's signing away your rights.
Yeah, because in Pennsylvania, it's the same thing here, right? Even if they get married, they don't have to adopt that child.
Right.
It's just become step.
Yeah. You could, as long as the original parent, or however you want to word it, the biological parent wants to give up those rights.
Yeah.
But I don't think you have to.
I wouldn't think you'd have to.
Right.
You can't force someone to adopt a child, so.
On the island, Charlie is looking through Claire's bags, and Kate questions him. He wants her diary, which is, it's sweet, but a little weird. It does give a humorous moment later on when he's just like trying to look at the diary and then he hides it. And he's trying to look at it and then he hides it again. Yeah. I thought that was funny, but it's a little creepy that he's just like, my girlfriend, friend, whatever she is, she's missing, so pretty much I want to see what she said about me.
Yeah. It's that Charlie thing. He was just a little off to begin with. Do you really want to know? Because it might hurt your feelings.
Right. Okay. Well, let me put it. You're a lady. You're a female. Would you want someone reading? A guy that you were maybe interested in or friends with reading your diary?
No, because if I said something mean or something, he's gonna find out, and then it could totally change the friendship.
Right.
So no, of course not. It's called a diary for a reason.
Yeah. Walt thinks working with Michael is punishment, which I thought was hilarious.
Me too.
Because kids seem to think that, though, where it's like, oh, you're going to be with me. What, am I being punished for something?
What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually in the opening of How I Met Your Mother. He says that. He's like,
really?
I'm going to, at the very, very beginning, he's like, I'm going to tell you, the story of How I Met Your Mother. And they're like, did we do something to, deserve this? Oh
my gosh, that's funny.
Sawyer sitting across from his tent and scaring Charlie makes me laugh every time.
Yeah.
Because and I love the fact that for whatever reason, he's not sitting at his tent, he's sitting across from it. I don't know if it's because he wants to catch people off guard.
He's a
whatever.
trap artist. He wants to trap somebody into going into his tent so he can catch them.
Yeah.
It's Sawyer. Hello.
Yeah. And then he taunts Charlie with Claire's diary before Charlie punches his arm. Because if you remember, he was stabbed in that arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sawyer called him limey, which is something of a, I don't want to say it's a derogatory term. It's become a derogatory term for a British person.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
Yes, it's like an old school, okay, in this area, maybe I don't think any fan other than, you would understand this concept. But, I don't know if you know that in this area, people call green peppers mangoes.
Really?
Yes. I work in produce. I know this.
Well, I don't eat
No,
green peppers. So
they do.
no,
They call them mangoes because it goes back to when they would have to refrigerate. If I'm not mistaken, and somebody prove me wrong in the comments, but it goes back to when they would have to refrigerate things for a long time, like in sea voyages or things like that. They would have to put them in a like a kind of cooling system because they didn't have like refrigerators,
right?
So they would have to keep them cool somehow, and it would be they just started referring to everything like that as a mango because you would have to keep mangoes at a certain temperature because going from a tropical region to a cooler region you would have to have them temperature sensitive as well for a mango. And it's kind of like, it's similar to how you've heard of like pickled things, and you can pickle anything.
Yes,
it's a similar concept to keeping it in like if I'm not mistaken, because pickling things is just putting it like in a liquid to like preserve it or whatever, right? I don't know if it's preserve it, but do something with it in the so it's a very similar concept with the mangoes and the peppers, and they would have to keep them preserved somehow, and so somewhere along the line green peppers started to be called mangoes. And it's similar with limes at one point, and it was something to do with, I don't remember if it was the First World War or the Second World War, and there was something with transporting limes from one way, from one place to the other, and somehow limey became a term for a British person. Ooh. And it's now, it's not so much as like a negative, but normally when it's heard on TV or something, it's, somebody's speaking angrily about a British person.
I've never heard. I never heard
that. Like, that limey. Like something like, or that limey bastard, or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's a term for British.
I did not know that.
Yeah. See, we're educational on Lost with Friends.
Definitely.
And then I have that Sawyer gets a better punch. And then another Britishism by Charlie, because I commented at one point on the fact that he says bloody like every other word.
Yes,
because it's as if the writers want us to remember, hey, he's British.
Yeah.
We get it, But he says that Sawyer hits like a ponce, which is a British word. And I said, once again, one of those words, and you just heard me say it, Americans can't really say without sounding strange. It's like, you can't say Lou. You can't really say bloody in an American accent. It just doesn't sound the same as what, it just doesn't work.
Absolutely, it does not work.
Now, if I put on my British voice or my Australian voice, I might be able to get it to work, but you are not going to get to hear it, and neither are the listeners. Not today, at least. Maybe one day. Maybe one day if I have some drinks in me or something. Walt sees Locke and Boone, and he decides to sneak off. That's when he's working with Michael, separating pieces for the raft. He sees them wandering through the jungle.
Yeah.
Boone is confronted by Shannon, and he gets to prove here, as, per the last episode, that she has no power over him anymore. You have any idea what I'm talking about?
I do.
Okay.
I'm happy for Boone. He broke away from her.
Yeah, because then you got to be on the Vampire Diaries. My friend Megan, the one who you said you liked listening to her episode, she just, you saw the thing, you may have seen the picture where I posted that she just started watching Vampire Diaries.
Oh, no, I didn't, did she?
She started watching it, so, like, she keeps sending me all these messages. And, like, the other day...
I did see that, I'm sorry.
So
I did.
the whole thing.
I did.
And I told her that I'm going to reply with this emoji every time. Because I can't say anything, because I'm still a few episodes behind this season, but, like, I know way more than she knows. She's in the first season, I'm on season 8, like, I can't say anything, so I'm just giving her this emoji.
He only gets better. He is so much better as a vampire.
What's funny, because she keeps messaging me, I don't like Boone in this. Boone is a jerk. I'm like, his name is Damon, call him the right thing.
It is, because he is so much better as that vampire.
Yeah. Well, then it was, I guess she was a few episodes in, because she's like, I don't like him. And then, like, a few hours later, she goes, all right, maybe he's not so bad.
See? He kind of grows on you. I mean, at first, it's like you got to let him grow on you, but he makes a much better vampire than he does a Boone.
Yes. I have Locke makes an attempt to listen to Michael by telling Walt to stay away because Michael doesn't want them near each other, but Michael sees it and doesn't care. He's coming into the situation blinded by his rage and ignorance. This was the moment that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
I have Walt lies to protect Walt, and Michael threatens Locke's life, which is not a smart idea, because he does. He gets in close and he's just like, I'll kill you. Like,
Locke can kill boars.
Yeah.
Don't mess with Locke.
Yeah. Walt and Michael argue, and I put that it's a very father and son argument, ironically enough. You know, because if I'm not mistaken, at that moment, Walt says, like, you know, I hate you or whatever, which is very much like
it's
what
like
a kid says.
It's like the epiphany of all arguments with your kids.
Walt is too focused on the comic burning. This is when he throws it in the fire. And I have that I think this is, again, a nod to his specialness. Because he just kind of stares at it, and it's the polar bear is the shot.
Yeah.
And then the polar bear shows up a little bit later.
Yeah, it does.
In the hospital, Michael and the nurse exchange classic bad jokes. Anyone who knows me knows that I would love that moment.
Bad jokes.
Yes. And then his ex is there, and she didn't even bring his son. No. I have that's horrible. And the fact that she basically blackmails him by paying his bills in exchange for him signing over parental rights. Terrible. She's a bitch.
She really is. And I agree with you there. I will not argue at all. That was just wrong on her part.
Yeah.
But hey, she got what she wanted, so.
Yeah. That doesn't make it okay, though.
No, it doesn't. No. I totally agree with you.
Hurley telling Michael that Walt is gone. Because he's just like, he's looking around and he's just like, dude, your kid left. Like, and then Michael and Locke's differences since the beginning of the series are coming to a peak here. Because this is when he charged and he's like, where's my son? And he's just like, your son isn't here. And he's like, don't lie to me.
Waving the knife?
No, that happened already.
Yeah.
But this is where he's just like, don't lie to me. And then I have, ironically, Walt isn't with Locke, and Michael finds out Locke told Walt not to come around. Egg on Michael's face.
Yes.
But Locke still does the stand-up thing and says that they need to go because he's like, we need to go find your boy. Yeah. You know.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like Locke, you know, he kills boars, man. Don't mess with him because obviously he's gonna. But see, that came after him, and he's still gonna help you find your kid.
And that's my point from earlier, where he was doing the stand-up guy thing.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, you know, when he says to Walt, "Your father doesn't want us spending time together." You know, and then Michael comes in. That's when he threatens him, like, "I'll kill you." Yeah. And he's like, I heard you were making the raft here. I thought I'd give you a pen. Yeah. And he just as easily could have, like, killed Michael right then and there. Right. But he decided to do the stand-up thing, which, you know, he again does right here by saying, like, we're going to go find your son. Because he could have been like, well, this is your own fault for being such a crappy dad, you know, whatever. But he, you know, instead, partly because he likes Walt, but partly because he's just like, you know, I'm a good guy.
It is.
You know?
Locke is a good guy.
Yeah, you're biased, though.
So far. I do. I am biased. I like Locke, but I like Saeed.
Yeah. Any of these men who could take care of you, right? Exactly. What about Sawyer? Locke versus Sawyer. to take care of Missy on a deserted island. Who do you got?
Sawyer's got a mouth though. Like he doesn't hunt boar. The only thing he does is, I mean, he could shoot something. Not that I'm going to eat the boar, but still. I don't know. You can't do that. That's not right.
I have Kate is spending a lot of time with Charlie in this episode. Charlie from the pilot episode would be loving this because if you remember, he wants to just like sleep with Kate pretty much in that first episode. And I have that this Charlie is a different man. He only has eyes for Claire. Real growth for that character.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so.
But not too much as he struggles humorously with not reading the diary, as I commented on earlier, where he's just like tucking it away, and then he pulls it out, he's flipping through, no, and then he puts it away again, and, I have Walt deep in the jungle hears rumblings, and he's just like looking around because he hears these weird noises, and at that point, I think we're supposed to suspect maybe it's the monster, whatever. In the flashback, he's studying birds of Australia, where they live now, which was established in the pilot, because, so far in this episode, because he says in the pilot, I live in Australia with my mom, when he's talking to Walt for the very first time. And then I remember when watching this episode, I'm like, okay, well, they're in New York, then they're in Amsterdam. I'm like, when do they get to Australia? Yeah. And this is the point. Yeah. But he doesn't care as his mother is going through something. Because, she's having like a dizzy spell or whatever. Oh, yeah. He gets angry, as children tend to do, but then the bird crashes into the window. And I have that not all children can pretty much summon that. No. And
if they could, I'd be a little worried.
Yeah. And I also remember reading, now I don't know how true this is, but I remember reading somewhere that the bird that crashed into the window is the same one that's in his book that he was trying to get his mother and Brian to look at. Right. When he's just like, look at this bird, it's so weird. And then that's the kind of bird that crashes into the window.
I thought it was too. Yeah. Like that was my take on it.
But so that's even weirder that he was able to summon that particular bird.
Oh, yeah. That kid is some kind of special. Some kind of crazy.
Yeah. And then I have that either way he doesn't care, because once he sees the dead bird, he's like, is it dead? And Brian's like, yeah, and he just like kind of shrugs it off. And that scares Brian more than anything, I think.
Yeah. I mean, this bird died, and he's like, whatever. Like, it has no emotional toll on this kid.
I have to be completely honest, though. I don't think that it would have an emotional toll on me if a bird just flew. Like, okay, it died.
But I think Brian sees it as it's the same bird in his book.
But does he see that, though?
I don't know. That's a good question. But you wouldn't be even the least... Like, I'm not saying, cry over it. Just say, oh, my God, I can't believe it died. That's sad. And, make a comment and then go back to your book. Not even nothing.
If he doesn't care that his mom is, all he cares about is you're not looking at my book. Which, I mean, he's, 8, 9 years old at that point. Children are very self-involved. You have children. Yes. You've been around children quite a lot. They're self-involved. Would they really care other than you're not looking at my book? Does anything else really faze them?
Some kids have a short attention span. They might be looking at something in the book, but then something fly by his window and they're like, oh, what was that? And then it's like, their focus is on that, and then they come back. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right, but so that plays into what I'm saying, because he was focused on the bird. The bird died, and then he shrugs it off because there's nothing more to it because it's dead. Well, then he goes right back to his book. But that scares Brian, and to me, I don't necessarily think of that as a big scary moment, because his attention changed.
Well, he did mention the bird's name. The specific bird. He said he picked it because it had a different or a weird name. Mm-hmm. Brian must have heard it. Maybe he knew that was the specific bird he had. Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, so you think that Brian, because Brian, maybe
Walt
he
mentioned
thought,
it.
Maybe Brian thought Walt just summoned this bird and it died. Okay.
Yes, and he has no care in the world about it.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that.
Okay.
And then Brian comes to tell Michael Susan, that's her name because I couldn't remember it from earlier.
I
Susan,
couldn't remember it either.
That she died and that she doesn't want Walt, or that he doesn't want Walt. I'm sorry, and the fact that he pretty much never wanted Walt means, as I said earlier, that Susan was a great manipulator, and makes me think that she probably would have done well on the island because all the leaders are very manipulative. Even Kate. To a certain extent. Others that listen to this show I know will disagree with me, and you look like you're disagreeing with me a little bit as well.
I'm not a Kate hate. I'm not a big fan of Kate.
Okay.
She's well, she's a woman. She's going to manipulate whatever she can to get whatever she can.
Whoa. Your words, not mine.
Your
words, not mine.
And then Susan did it. You got to edit that out because I don't want it to sound like I'm a girl. I don't want people to think, oh, yeah, I manipulate to get what I want. Because I don't. I'm just saying, like, at times it seems like Susan did. She, I can't even say the
Manipulated?
word. Manipulated. I can't even say it. That to Michael, and she got what she wanted. She got to marry Brian. Brian got to adopt. She got to move away and take the baby, and that's what happened. But I remember that part where he's all disheveled coming to Michael's house.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I didn't bring him with me."
Yeah, which
I don't.
Yeah, again, that's like. I mean, I know they wanted to set up that moment at the end where they kind of like meet each other.
Yeah.
You know, but like that's twice that they've gone to visit
trekked
him.
it all the way across America. Well, halfway across the world, and
didn't bring the kid to see his father.
Right?
Yeah.
That's smart.
I do like the fact that Michael, it seems to me, knows that it'd not be good for Walt to be taken away from Brian, since Walt doesn't know Michael. He only knows, like, he's like, you're the only father he's ever known.
Yeah.
And as much as Michael, we've seen him on the island and we've seen him off the island, he's always wanted to be with Walt. And so that moment, I think, that's a big deal when he kind of is just like, I don't think that I'm the best person. At the moment, he says, because Brian would be better because he knows Brian.
He doesn't know Walt. I mean, Walt doesn't know Michael.
Right.
He hasn't seen him in how many years since he was a baby? He's not going to remember him.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was very man of Michael to do that, because most people would be like,
yeah, give me my kid. Yeah.
But.
And then Brian says, there's something about him. And then I have that Brian realized Walt's specialness and it scared him, which plays into what you said moments ago. On the island, Locke and Michael search for Walt a little bit, which is so weird. Like, in this episode in particular, they cut, like, back and forth. Like, I know they cut a lot in some of these episodes, but, like, they cut back, like, very briefly to be like, there is stuff going on the island, let's not forget.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then in the flashback, Michael is in Susan and Brian's home in Australia waiting for Walt. The nanny shows Michael all the letters Walt never got from Michael. Susan never gave them to Walt. I have, again, horrible. Luckily, the nanny was nice and smart.
Exactly.
You know?
Like, see, that's where I'm thinking sad face, because, I mean, why would she not give the letters to her son from his father?
Yeah.
Unless she was trying to hide, maybe she was trying to hide Michael from Walt. Like,
I
this
think,
is your dad, that's it.
Yeah.
Brian, and that's all.
Yeah. Well, at that point, you know, as Michael said, like...
He is his father.
Yeah, he's the only one that he's ever known. And it might be a little confusing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean? There's this other guy out there somewhere. I want to meet him. And she obviously doesn't want that.
No.
You know? No. Also, the ceiling in the shot above Michael is an octagon with spokes. I think it's just a coincidence, but to me, not you, because you have no idea what I'm about to say.
That's good.
But I think, maybe some of our listeners may agree, that it may have been an inadvertent foreshadowing of the Dharma logo and the donkey wheel. May have been a coincidence, but again, we know coincidence in terms of this show. And And then back on the island, Walt is calling for his dad while being attacked by the polar bear. Locke knows they have to be smart, not emotional, because Michael wants to just charge right in.
Yeah.
And that's an issue that, well, let's see. Michael had that issue when they were hunting boar. Michael was like, let's just go after this thing. You know what I mean? Because Locke is like, oh, we need to sneak around and trap it, whatever. Whereas Michael is just like, let's just get it. And even when they were going to hunt for Ethan, you know, Jack was like, well, let's just go. Whereas Locke was like, let's, you know, take a moment and figure everything out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's funny how not only does Michael, he's still the same as he was, but it seems that Locke is always encountering somebody who's not as level-headed as him, which of course makes sense because now that he's on the island, he's, you know, Mr. Zen.
Yeah.
But, you know, Michael basically meeting Walt in that flashback, it's sad and a little awkward.
It is.
You know?
Well, Michael says, well, I'm your dad. I'm going to take you back to New York. I ain't going nowhere with you.
Yeah.
He says. Already they're starting off
not
on a good foot.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
And he's like, I'm not going anywhere with you.
Yeah.
And I mean, rightfully so, because, like.
He doesn't know him.
Yeah.
And then
I would assume, now obviously they didn't show it, but I would assume at some point, like, he had to go, like, Walt probably went to the nanny and was like, who is this dude?
Yeah.
Like,
why is this guy here?
Yeah.
He's a little scared. You're going to let me go with him?
Yeah.
Well, he asks where Brian is, and Michael says,
you know, like, oh, he's not here or whatever.
Yeah.
And I have that Michael lies to protect Brian. Because he's just like, you know, he goes, it's not up to Brian, it's up to me, I'm your father. And I thought that was, quickly and almost gladly, he takes Brian's dog away, too, to give it to Walt, which makes me laugh.
Yeah.
But, I mean, obviously, I think that was a little bit of payback for everything.
Sure.
But, yeah, I thought it was, you know, a stand-up thing to do for Michael to kind of protect Brian in that way. Especially in the eyes of the kid, because, you know, Brian is the only one that he knows.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Michael realizing his son now needs the knife. When he, you know, the whole time he's just like, you know, oh, I don't want you with the knife. And then he drops him the knife, and he's just like, use it! And, you know, Walt kind of looks at him like, are you sure?
Yeah.
You know?
Me?
Yeah.
You want me to touch that?
Do you not remember what happened, like, yesterday or whatever? Yeah. And then, you know, that he saves, because, you know, he goes down and he starts stabbing at the bear.
Michael does? Okay,
and he, you know, Locke helps
hoist
him up, but pretty much he gets that moment of saving his son.
He does.
Which I thought was a big, important
Absolutely.
thing, you know?
Absolutely.
And then Walt comments on the fact that the dog is gone, and Locke assures Walt that Vincent will come back, as he always does. And, of course, the previous time, and at the end of this one, we see he's out there with the dog whistle trying to get the dog back because he wants to make, you know, Walt happy as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Locke and Michael now seem to have a respect and understanding with each other, you know?
Yeah. So
that's definitely improvement from the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. Most definitely on Michael's part.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Later, because it switches to nighttime very quickly, Michael gives Walt everything Susan never gave him, and they have a nice bonding moment. You know, he shows him the letters, and there's the penguin, you know, joke and all that kind of stuff. And he even says, like, why did my mom never give these to me? Yeah. And he's just like, I really don't know. And he could have just been like, because your mom's a bitch.
Right?
But, like, she's dead now, so, like, you don't want to say anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And he does. He tells her, well, she kept him, so she must have wanted you to have him at some certain point.
Exactly. So. And I wonder if that was her keeping them, Brian keeping them, or the nanny keeping them.
Yeah. Makes you wonder. But, hey, for Michael to do that, he is not a fan, but he is, it's a big step.
Yeah,
definitely. That was very nice of him to take the heat for people. So.
Yeah. I have that we see Charlie reading Claire's diary. She says nice things about Charlie, but I still think that that's an invasion of privacy.
Sure, it's a diary.
You just have this look on your face where you're like, it is, obviously.
Well, because it is. It's a diary. It's, personal and private for a reason.
Yeah.
Because what if there was something Charlie didn't like? What was he going to do? Turn his back on her?
I think that's what she thought. Because she even said that in the Raised by Another episode where she's just like, you don't really like me, you just want to protect me because of this. And she
the baby.
shows off her baby bump.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think Charlie really did really does like her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Because you just don't go find peanut butter just for anybody on an island.
Yeah. And then Charlie notices something and takes it to Saeed and Jack, and he refers to himself as scum because he comments, he's like, yeah, I was reading her diary, I know I'm scum. Like,
at least he admits it, though.
Yeah. And then he references her dream about the Black Rock, and Saeed and Charlie obviously think there could be a connection with Claire's dream and the previous comments from Danielle, because she had said something about the Black Rock. Okay. But Jack, of course, doesn't quite believe because he's still the man of science at this point. And then Locke and Boone with the whistle, they're looking for Vincent, and then they hear a rustling, and then the cliffhanger of the episode, out stumbles Claire.
Oh, that's right. I was like, oh, it's the dog, but I remember.
It was Claire. So actually, I'm thinking that's really good that I got you to do this episode because it's a nice little bookend of you were at the episode where she disappeared and
she comes back. See that?
See, it all worked out. No such thing as coincidence, people.
No.
But yeah, that's my very last note.
I didn't have any notes, but I was just happy that I remembered everything.
If you hear that, that's Missy's phone going off. So sorry for that, everybody.
He's a nosy kid. Yeah. That's Claire.
You have a soft spot for Claire, don't you?
I like Claire. Because of her jerk boyfriend.
Yeah.
So, thank God she comes out of the woods like that. I don't know. I like Claire. So far.
I no comment. But yeah, so that was the episode special. Thank you very much for being here in the studio / Casa Casey dining room here. You're the first ever person that I've had on this show who's actually sat here, and it's not like a, let's talk over Skype or over Facebook or something. Yeah. You're the first in-studio guest.
Yes.
So there you go. See, even 13, 14 episodes in, we're still doing firsts on Lost with Friends.
Nice.
And I think that's going to do it for this episode, so I will end with the traditional thank you, namaste, and good luck. Like this content? How about you make it official? Click the little thumbs up button there below. Once you're done with that, maybe give us a subscribe and share us with your friends. Thanks.